Social Identity Theory by Saul McLeod. Social identity is a person's sense of who they are based on their group memberships. Groups, e.g. social class, family, football team, which people belong to, are an important source of pride and self-esteem. Groups give us a sense of social identity, a sense of belonging to the social world. In order to increase our self-image, we enhance the status of the group to which we belong. For example, people from England may say that England is the best country in the world. They may also increase their self-image by discriminating and holding prejudiced views against the out-group, the group they don't belong to. For example, they may say the Americans and the French are a bunch of losers, in order to emphasize their own English superiority. Therefore, when people categorize or group people together, they actually divide the world into two groups, us and them. This is known as creating an in-group, us, and an out-group, them. Social identity theory states that the in-group will discriminate against the out-group to enhance their self-image. In fact, often the group members of an in-group will seek to find negative aspects of an out-group in order to enhance their own self-image. These prejudiced views between groups may result in negative outcomes such as racism. In its extreme forms, it may result in violence and even genocide, which is when one group kills off massive numbers of people from another group. This has happened many times in history, such as occurred in Germany with the Jews, in Rwanda between the Hutus and the Tutsis, and more recently in the former Yugoslavia between the Bosnians and the Serbs. Stereotyping, i.e. putting people into groups and categories, is based on a normal thinking process. The tendency to group things together. When we group things together, we tend to identify 1. The differences between groups, 2. The similarities of things in the same group. We categorize people in the same way. We see the groups to which we belong, the in-group, as being different from the others, the out-group, and members of the same group as being more similar than they are. Social categorization is one explanation for prejudiced attitudes, i.e. them and us mentality, which leads to in-groups and out-groups. Some examples of in-groups and out-groups: Germany, Jews and the Nazis; in politics, the Democrats and Republicans; football, Giants fans and Patriots fans; gender, males and females; social class, the middle and the working classes. Social identity theory outline. Psychologists have proposed that there are 3 mental processes involved in evaluating others as us or them, i.e. in-group and out-group. These take place in a particular order. The first is categorization. We categorize objects in order to understand them and identify them. In a very similar way, we categorize people, including ourselves, in order to understand the social environment. We use social categories like black, white, Australian, Christian, Muslim, student, and bus driver because they are useful. If we can assign people to a category, that tells us things about those people. And as we saw with the bus driver example, we couldn't function in a normal manner without using these categories, i.e. in the context of the bus. Similarly, we find out things about ourselves by knowing what categories we belong to. We define appropriate behavior by reference to the norms of groups we belong to, but you can only do this if you can tell who belongs to your group. An individual can belong to many different groups. In the second stage, social identification, we adopt the identity of the group we have categorized ourselves as belonging to. If, for example, you have categorized yourself as a student, the chances are you will adopt the identity of a student and begin to act in the ways you believe students act, and conform to the norms of the group. There will be an emotional significance to your identification with a group, and your self-esteem will become bound up with group membership. 3. The final stage is social comparison. Once we have categorized ourselves as part of a group and have identified with that group, then we tend to compare that group with other groups. If our self-esteem is to be maintained, our group needs to compare favorably with other groups. This is critical to understanding prejudice, because once 2 groups identify themselves as rivals, they are forced to compete in order for the groups to maintain their self-esteem. Competition and hostility is then formed between the groups. Conclusion. In the social identity theory, The group membership is not something foreign or artificial that is attached onto the person. Instead, it is a real, true, and vital part of the person. Again, it is crucial to remember in-groups are groups you identify with, and out-groups are ones that we don't identify with and may discriminate against.